Welcome, everyone. It's Wednesday, January 7th, 2026, episode number 2 of the new year here at the Call Sheet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Smith, Fans First Sports Network, cranking out these shows every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Oftentimes on Wednesday, we do either a whiteboard show where I have a fellow coach on and we're breaking down the X's and the O's of the game of football. Sometimes I do a gridiron glossary show on Wednesday where we're going through football terms, popular concepts, breaking those down. But today we're going to do a sort of special show where we talk about the current coaching vacancies in the NFL. Big news on Tuesday out of Baltimore. Ravens parting ways with head coach John Harbaugh, 18 years at the helm, a Super Bowl championship, one of the most successful coaches in the NFL over the last decade, certainly. Lots of success in Baltimore, but a disappointing season brings an end to the Harbaugh era. And that brings the total number of vacancies, vacant NFL head coaching jobs, to 7. And on today's show, we're going to rank them. What are the most attractive to and least attractive of the 7 openings? The way the NFL is, the fluidity that exists within the coaching profession. By the time you listen to this show, who knows? There may be an 8th or even a 9th opening. But for the moment, it kind of feels like things have settled. The Harbaugh news, surprising, not shocking, because you'd heard some rumors. Could there be another shoe to drop? Could there be another big opening, a big upset, so to speak? Of course there could. But for now, let's rank them from least attractive to most attractive. 7 openings. At number 7, Cleveland Browns. Why are the Browns the least attractive opening? Well, this is going to be a bit of a theme. Many of these openings, and whether or not they're considered attractive or good jobs, et cetera, are going to be tied to a team's quarterback situation. And the Browns have arguably the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. And this is not unusual. This is a franchise that has had 13 different starting quarterbacks this decade. The decade's only half over. They've already had 13 different starting quarterbacks. Their current quarterback situation is the envy of no one, where you have 2 rookies, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, who played most of the reps at quarterback this year. You had 2 other veterans who started games, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, both of whom have since been traded. They don't have the number 1 pick or even the 2, 3, 4, or 5 pick. The Browns pick 6th in what is widely regarded as a 1 quarterback draft. Fernando Mendoza of Indiana is the only home run. If Dante Moore of Oregon comes out, then maybe there's a second. The Browns will probably, unless they can figure out how to aggressively trade up, not have a shot at Dante Moore. Then you go to guys like Ty Simpson from Alabama, who could develop into a good NFL quarterback someday, maybe in the Kirk Cousins mold. But for the moment, given the fact he was only a starter at Bama for 1 year, is going to need some seasoning. It is not a deep quarterback draft. It is not a deep free agent market at the quarterback position. Malik Willis from the Packers is going to get a lot of interest. Who knows what Aaron Rodgers will do? My suspicion is if he comes back, it'll probably be for 1 more year in Pittsburgh. And beyond that, there's just a bunch of retread names. Could you trade for a guy? Could you trade for Tua in Miami? Could you trade for Kyler Murray? Could you trade for Kirk Cousins? He just reworked his contract. Yeah, you could do all those things. But are any of those guys solid enough right now to make the Cleveland job and all that comes with it? a franchise that has been a quarterback graveyard. A franchise that just fired Kevin Stefanski after he put together the best 4-year stretch from 2020 to 2023 in Cleveland since they've had when Marty Schottenheimer was the head coach back in the 1980s. I mean, Kevin Stefanski put together the best 4-year stretch in Cleveland in 40 years, and then they went and saddled him with the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. And hey, shockingly, he couldn't make lemonade out of those nasty lemons, and they fired him. So, I mean, he is widely regarded as one of the better coaches in the NFL. He's got 2-time coach of the year. It throws into question the decision-making process in Cleveland. So, questionable ownership, questionable management, terrible quarterback situation. Browns, number 7. Number 6, Arizona Cardinals. Again, largely tied to the quarterback situation. It's not just the quarterback in Arizona, however, but it starts there. Kyler Murray signed for a couple more years on a deal that pays him $230 million. He's got $39 million in guaranteed money if he's on the roster when the team or when the new year starts. If you cut him, if you're just like, hey, I don't want to deal with Kyler Murray. He's not the answer. Can't find a trade partner. Not moving forward with him. If you cut him, you're going to take a $47 million dead money hit. Could you trade him? Maybe. There are quarterback needy teams out there. Jets, maybe the Steelers, depending on what happens with Rodgers. Colts, maybe Miami. Could you swap Murray for Tua? Who knows, right? Could you work with him? Could you make it work? He's been injured a lot. The best year that the Cardinals have had in the last several years was 2 seasons ago when they went 8-9. Murray was healthy that whole year. So if he stays healthy, can he be serviceable at quarterback? Maybe. A lot of maybes. But the prototype of who he is as a quarterback, as he now approaches 30 years of age, suggests he doesn't have a long shelf life. I mean, Kyler Murray's about 5'9". And quarterbacks who are that small, I don't care how quick he is, take hits and get injured, and that has been his history. But it's not just Kyler Murray. The other problem is this. The Cardinals brought Jonathan Gannon to the desert to fix their defense. Well, it didn't work. I mean, Gannon was the DC of a Super Bowl team in Philadelphia, but the defense has been terrible in Arizona. 27th ranked defense this year, 29th in points per game. So you got to get the quarterback situation right, and you have to fix the defense. The Cardinals are said to be in the market for some defensive-minded head coaches. Some of the names that have surfaced as potential replacements for Gannon: Brian Flores, Robert Saleh, Vance Joseph, the DC in Denver. So there'll be some interesting names to watch. But whomever takes over in Arizona, they got some work to do. All right, number 5, 5th most attractive job on this list. I will say I'm going to put the Atlanta Falcons at number 5. And once again, we have to look to the quarterback position first. Kirk Cousins just reworked his deal to make it more team friendly. Is that because the Falcons want to bring him back? Maybe. He played some pretty good football for them down the stretch. They won 4 straight games to end the season, which is why it was a little surprising that they moved on from Raheem Morris. 4 straight wins, 8-9. It feels like, hey, man, there's something to build on there. But no, they said, we want to go in a different direction. Well, Raheem Morris is a defensive-minded guy. Could it be that the slow development of Michael Penix, who was the starting quarterback at the outset this past year, who wound up tearing an ACL in week 11, his season ended, he had been up and down, too many turnovers, guy who was renowned for his accuracy coming out of the University of Washington, didn't have a particularly high completion percentage. Lots of weapons around him. Bijan Robinson, if you're starting a football team and you get to pick any running back you want, Bijan Robinson is on the short list. One of the best in the NFL. Drake London, solid number one wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, really talented at the tight end position. Kyle Pitts can be a free agent. Will Atlanta bring him back? They can run the ball. They finished 8th in the NFL in rushing. They got a solid ownership group. They're said to be bringing in Matt Ryan, franchise legend, as a consultant. Maybe he'll even get a management job in Atlanta. There are some attractive options, but what's the quarterback situation going to be? Is it going to be Penix? Because he probably gets one more year there to figure out if he's the guy before they really have to make a decision on him. Is it going to be Cousins, who's now pushing up on 40 years of age? Are they going to try to trade Cousins for an asset? There's a lot of unknown about that quarterback position. Candidates. Kevin Stefanski has emerged as a big name to watch in Atlanta. Some of the other candidates, guys that have not been head coaches, Joe Brady, the OC in Buffalo, Clint Kubiak. Cliff Kingsbury was just let go. He's been a head coach, but he was just let go by the Commanders. Those are names to watch. It looks like Atlanta's going to look for an offensive-minded head coach who they believe can develop Penix. Job number 4, fourth most attractive job, Las Vegas Raiders. And I would normally mark them a little bit further down because this is an organization that has been notoriously dysfunctional. This is a team that made a weird hire last year when they brought Pete Carroll off the sidelines at 74 years of age. I shouldn't say brought him off the side. They brought him to the sidelines. They brought him off the couch is where they brought him from. Brought Chip Kelly in. None of it worked. None of it worked. The offense was an absolute train wreck. 32nd in total offense, 32nd in points per game. The Raiders averaged 14 points a game. You're not going to win many football games scoring 14 points a game in the NFL. They've got some talent on offense. Start with Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers. Those have been their last 2 number 1 picks. Michael Mayer's a nice piece. Devontae Adams. But the quarterback position, once again, has been a mess. Not very good this past year with Geno Smith. They had Aiden O'Connell and some poo-poo platter of quarterbacks in 2024. But they're going to get the number 1 overall pick. And unless somebody offers them heaven and earth for it, they're going to take Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. And he looks to be a franchise guy in the making. 6'5", 225, big, accurate, can make any throw. Not the most mobile guy in the world, but he's functionally mobile. He can manipulate the pocket. You're not going to be running zone read and counter bash with him, but he can manipulate the pocket. He can make off-platform throws. The right to draft Mendoza is going to make that Raiders job a lot more attractive. But it's interesting that they are said to be looking at defensive-minded head coaches. Some of the names that have surfaced there. Anybody that wants a defensive guy, you're going to hear Flores and Robert Saleh. But Jesse Minter, that's an interesting name. The highly successful DC with the Chargers, who Jim Harbaugh brought to LA with him from Michigan. That would be a bit of a coup if the Raiders could steal him from a division rival. That's a name to watch. Number 3 on the list, Tennessee Titans. Why? Because they have their quarterback of the future. All of the other jobs that we've named so far have questions. Who's it going to be? Even Mendoza, as good as he looks, we don't know how he's going to translate in the NFL. The top 3 jobs are attractive because the quarterback is in place. Start with Tennessee. Cam Ward, tough year there. Yeah, he struggled. But he struggled in large part because he didn't have a supporting cast. He had one of the weakest supporting casts in the league. And his head coach was fired, Brian Callahan, just 6 weeks into the season, which made his rookie year a lot of obstacles. A lot of obstacles in place. But he showed both character and potential in how he handled it. He was outspoken at times about things he needed to do better. His teammates needed to do better. His coaches needed to do better. Some people didn't like that. I did. I thought that was a young man as a rookie taking ownership of the franchise, taking ownership of the team, and saying, here's what's working and here's what's not. We got to get better here and here. And that includes me. I liked it. Titans have the 4th pick in the draft. They could use that to add major talent at wide receiver. They really need to upgrade at the receiver position. Their 2 leading pass catchers this year were both tight ends. So obviously they got to get more production at the receiver position. I mean, with some help on offense, Ward could definitely develop into a top 10, top 12 talent. You're hearing some offensive-minded coaches linked to Tennessee. Stefanski's name is really starting to heat up some of the perhaps mutual interest there. Matt Nagy, Kansas City OC, a name. If you want to bring somebody out of retirement, Jason Garrett, that's a name we've seen. Looks like they're going to go offense in Tennessee. All right, what are the 2 most attractive jobs on the market right now? Number 2, New York Giants. Jackson Dart looked like this year the cream of the crop when it came to the rookie quarterback class. No rookie played the quarterback position better than Jackson Dart this year. And when you look at the growth of guys like Drake May and Bo Nix, the leap that they made from their rookie to their second season in the league, and you project Jackson Dart a year from now, the Giants could be good. They have got some weapons on offense. Cam Scattaboo and Tyrone Tracy, 2 really attractive running backs. Got Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, good receiving core. They need to get better on the offensive line, but they're going to have some draft capital to do that. They got a solid defense. The defensive front is excellent. Bunch of big name guys on that defensive front. The Giants in 2026 could be this year's New England Patriots, who went from 4-13 to 13-4. I don't think it's inconceivable that New York could have a similar turnaround with the right guy. And the hot name in the Big Apple is now John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh and the Giants are said to have mutual interest. If the Giants want a guy who can immediately come in there and establish a culture, I mean, they've got some talented players. What does New York lack? A culture, a tight locker room, something Brian Daboll was not able to build there. Well, John Harbaugh knows how to do it. And Kevin Stefanski's name's been linked to the Giants as well, and that makes sense. Stefanski, born and raised in Philly, family lives in Jersey. They would love to be a little bit closer to home. Makes sense. But Kevin Stefanski is not a limelight guy. He's not a spotlight guy. Said to be some concerns about maybe being in that market, the New York market. I think Harbaugh's the name to watch. If you want to name, again, you want a name coming out of retirement, Mike McCarthy also. But I think they're going to need an established head coach, a guy who's been there before. The Giants are not taking their chances on an OC. Guy's never had a head coaching job. They're going to want an established guy. They're going to want a guy who can turn them around now. All right, last but not least, the obvious number one, the obvious most attractive job in this hiring cycle just opened up on Tuesday, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens. 6 playoff appearances in the last 8 seasons, 6 double-digit wins in the last 8 seasons, a Super Bowl under John Harbaugh, a 2-time MVP at quarterback in Lamar Jackson, a running back in Derrick Henry, still, now at age 32, one of the 5 or 6 best in the NFL. They got some work to do on the defensive side of the ball. They have to fix their secondary. Baltimore 31st in the NFL this past year in pass yards surrendered, 30th in pass defense EPA. They gotta fix the defense. It was not a very Baltimore-like defense this past season. But the pieces are in place. They have just not been able to get it done in the postseason. The biggest reason John Harbaugh is not in Baltimore anymore is probably because his kicker missed a 44-yard field goal on the final play of the season against Pittsburgh to keep him out of the playoffs. But bigger picture, it's because of the recent postseason failures. Massive disappointments in the playoffs. Again, you're coming in with a 2-time MVP. You're routinely a double-digit win team. A couple years ago, you had home field advantage. Lost to the Chiefs at home in the AFC Championship game, in a game that felt like it was just teed up for Baltimore to get to the Super Bowl. The pieces are there for a Super Bowl team. But Harbaugh couldn't get him there. So who can? I mean, it looks like they're going to trend towards a defensive-minded coach. Flores' name has really been hot in the last 24 hours. So too, if you want a guy who's never held a head coaching job, has Chris Shula, the DC for the Rams. But I talked to some people who are in the know on this one. You know, I'm not gonna say I'm Shefty or anything like that. Obviously, I have no my NFL connections are severely limited as compared to those guys. But I talked to a coach yesterday, about this situation, and the name that he told me to keep your eye on, Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But Bill Belichick and Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti are tight. Belichick badly wants back into the NFL. He had a miserable experience at North Carolina. Not so much on the field. I mean, the Tar Heels struggled on the field. But dealing with the transfer portal and the NIL was said to be exhausting. Belichick had 40-some transfers on his roster at North Carolina. And the notion that his entire team is essentially a free agent is very off-putting to Belichick. They thought that they were going to do this 33rd team thing down there where they were going to turn the Tar Heels into an NFL franchise. But what they realized was in the NFL, you have a handful of free agents every year. In college, your entire roster could hit free agency every single year. And so the constant turnover and the lack of consistency that trends to is off-putting. And Belichick would like back in the NFL. Probably not going to happen. Again, he's 73. His last round of job interviews did not go well. He was said to be very demanding when the Atlanta Falcons were considering him for their job a couple years ago. He's set in his ways. Will Steve Bisciotti give him what he wants? Will he want to give up some of the control over the organization? I don't know. I think it's a long shot, but it's a fascinating one. Belichick to the Ravens. Oh my gosh, that would be fascinating. So it's going to be an interesting hiring cycle. Harbaugh is going to get a job somewhere. Stefanski's going to get his job somewhere. Then you've got some of these hot defensive coordinators. Flores, Saleh, they may get hired, right? They may get another shot. Those are both guys that have had a head coaching job. Are they ready now for another shot? And are we going to see a hot young coordinator on the offensive side of the ball? A Kubiak, a Kingsbury, maybe even Joe Brady of the Bills, maybe Todd Monken, who might be now available with Harbaugh leaving Baltimore. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting couple of months on the hiring front. All right, that is our Wednesday show. Join me on Friday, Hot Route, Pez and Michelle. Mrs. Pez will be back. And we're talking all things NFL playoffs, college playoffs. Going to be a great show on Friday. But until then, hope everybody has a great day. Take care.